Aloha, and welcome to Feast, Dish, and Dialogue, a podcast presented by the Hawaii Ag and Culinary Alliance, sharing conversations from the Feast Summit at the annual Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. Here, leaders across food, education, agriculture, sustainability, and tourism come together to explore the future of food systems and hospitality, and how culinary sits at the center of the visitor experience in Hawaii and beyond. Pull up a seat and join the dialogue. In this Feast Dish episode, we feature keynote speaker John Tsou, OpenTable's VP of Marketing, from the Feast Summit stage. Recorded live at the summit in a session presented by OpenTable, Tsou shares the latest dining trends and behaviors shaping the future of hospitality.
And aloha, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today, and I'm really excited to be part of the Feast Summit. All right, my name is John Tsou. I'm the VP of Marketing at OpenTable. I've been at OpenTable for about 4 years, and it's my job to get diners to go and eat at OpenTable restaurants. But first, I would not be a very good marketer if I didn't take this opportunity with an audience with a bunch of restaurateurs to at least take 30 seconds to talk about OpenTable. So, for those of you who don't know OpenTable, we are a restaurant tech platform dedicated to helping you run your restaurant. So, we're probably best known for A, having the best table management software in the market, and B, coupling it with one of the biggest diner networks out there. So, we're the ones that are not only going to get you those butts and seats, but we're also going to help optimize the floor so you can squeeze even more butts on your busiest nights. I think one of the challenges in selling OpenTable is that we have so many features, so it's really easy to lose the overall message. So I'm actually just gonna ignore all that. And all I'm gonna say is that there's a bunch of OpenTable folks here at the session. So if you're a restaurateur and you're not using OpenTable, you should come say hi. Because if we put the technology aside, I think what really sets us apart is the fact that all of us are extremely invested in making restaurants successful. And I think the best advice that I can give you for any partnership, right, technology platform or otherwise, is that working with good people and working with good people who have your back, that's ultimately what's gonna make all the difference. All right, that's it. That's the sponsored ad portion of this session. So that wasn't so bad, hopefully. Now we can get back to our regular programming. Which means coming back to me. So like I said, I'm very excited to be here today, be a part of Hawaii Food and Wine. I'm actually on island maybe once or twice a year. My mother-in-law lives here in Waimanalo. And in fact, 3 years ago, I got married over at Kualoa Ranch, which is about an hour drive from this hotel. It was right at the tail end of COVID. So it was the first time we were really able to spend time with friends and family, so actually in real life. So the weekend was extra special. As a result, Oahu has this really particular special place in my heart, and I'll really take any excuse to come here. I'm also Asian, so the food is really important to me too, and that's really what made the weekend special as well. And I don't know if Chef Andrew or anyone from Pig and the Lady is here in the audience today, but they catered our wedding, and it was absolutely amazing. The ahi toast was hands down the best bite of the weekend. So again, coming here to speak is really a privilege because it gave me another excuse to come here and eat at Pig and the Lady, which I did yesterday. So thank you again, Hawaii Food and Wine. Okay, let's move on. Our topic for today is the future of dining in 2026 and beyond. And as I was mulling this topic over, I think what I realized is that talking about what might be different in the future means acknowledging that things are going to change. And we all know that change is really hard. And uncertainty is not that fun. But we also know that it's a fact of life. And in fact, we've known this for centuries. So this is a quote from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus from thousands of years ago. The only constant in life is change. Let me give you another quote about change that's a little bit more recent. This is a quote from Justin Trudeau, the former Prime Minister of Canada. He said, "The pace of change has never been this fast, and it will never be this slow again." So Mr. Trudeau said this at the World Economic Forum all the way back in January 2018, which is really only 7 years ago. He was talking about automation and AI's impact on world economies. But when you look back over the past 7 years, I think this quote feels right on so many levels, more than just world economies. So from where I stand, I see 3 major disruptions happening today that I think are shaping the world. And they're also shaping the world of dining. So these are the disruptions that are making the world feel uncertain, unsteady, and almost dizzying in its speed. And these are the changes that I think make 2018 feel slow and boring in comparison. So let me quickly go through these 3 disruptions with you, because I think they're going to form a great backdrop for our panel discussion today. And it's going to set the stage for our main attraction when the chefs come on. Be warned though, so I work at OpenTable, so you're going to see a lot of data. So strap in. Okay, first disruption. I'm going to use as a proxy TikTok's estimated revenue by quarter. So that's what those little tiny blue bars are. And here we have Justin. He's sitting pretty at 2018, saying just how much change there's been in the world. So I don't think any of you will be surprised when I say that TikTok has grown quite a bit in 2018, since 2018, because we all feel it. And frankly, we've all probably lost a lot of hours to it. But this isn't just a TikTok story. This is the rise of TikTok here represents the rise of the influencer economy more generally. It represents the changing nature of celebrity. You don't need to be a movie star anymore to have influence. It's also paired with shorter and shorter attention spans, the rise of short-form video, a culture that is constantly chasing virality. It represents the rise of Instagrammable moments over real life. And it's also pretty correlated, probably, with how often we say IRL these days. Like, we never said IRL in 2018.
You're listening to Feast, Dish and Dialogue, conversations from the Feast Summit exploring how food, culture, and hospitality shape the visitor experience in Hawaii and beyond.
This change is changing the nature of how diners discover restaurants too. So OpenTable ran a survey of our diners earlier this year. I'm actually going to be referencing a bunch of the stats from that survey. And so here, we asked diners how they discover new restaurants. What channels matter to them? And I'm only showing 2 channels here, Instagram and TikTok, and I split the results by age group. So the insight here is that social media use for restaurant discovery is generationally different. This probably isn't that surprising. Gen Z uses Instagram and TikTok a lot more than older generations, but they're using it to discover new restaurants. And maybe it's not that surprising either that Instagram is still outpacing TikTok, at least today. If you had to ask me, I would guess that that may not be true in the future. But let me layer on where Google scored in our survey. And all of a sudden, you see a slightly different story about the shift from search to social. So younger generations use social media just as much, if not more, than Google to find new restaurants. Older diners, they're still relying on Google. So if we fast forward to the future, just 5 or 10 years from now, as Gen Z continues to age into dining, you're going to find that Instagram and TikTok will become just as important as Google, if not more. So restaurants, if you don't have your social media strategy in place, it's only going to get more important over time. As a quick aside, you might be curious to know where ChatGPT was on this survey, and the answer is it's way on the bottom. So people talk about AI all the time, but they are not using ChatGPT to discover new restaurants yet. At OpenTable, we've seen this rise of social media. We've significantly expanded our social media presence over the past few years. So last year, we launched a dedicated Instagram handle just for LA restaurants. And we've seen a lot of engagement for LA diners. We also launched an Instagram handle dedicated to restaurant tours too, so we can share insights into sort of like what I'm doing today. All right, that's the first one, the rise of social media influence. For the second disruption, let me use the average price of fresh chicken in the US as our proxy. Okay, again, here's Justin all the way back in 2018 proclaiming that change has never been as fast as it was, and the red line represents the price of chicken per pound at the time. We all kind of know the story of what happened here. Prices have skyrocketed. I'm not going to get into the whys of what's happened. I think COVID had a really big impact. There's a ton of uncertainty these days from a policy perspective that's not helping. But let's all acknowledge that we're living in a new normal. And yes, this has material impact on restaurants. Whenever we survey restaurateurs, we hear that cost of goods sold and labor prices are the biggest pain points that you have. I will say, though, that cost has always been a pain point. This isn't new for restaurants. They're always talking about cost of goods sold and labor. But this kind of disruption in this short of a time period has really brought it to the forefront. But we should also consider the flip as well. Restaurants are feeling the pressure of rising prices, but so are diners. The economic disruption is impacting everyone. And this is where the story doesn't seem to play out as you'd expect, because despite this economic uncertainty, OpenTable data is suggesting that diners are still dining. So this is back to the survey that we ran this year. When we asked diners how frequently they dine out, more than half say that they dine out at least once a week, which is a lot. And when we asked them how much they spend on a casual meal out per person, about the same percentage said they spend at least $50 per person. So I've got Hawaii split out here too, compared to the US, and you'll see that the numbers aren't quite as high, but it does still seem to say that diners are still dining. Let me give you another signal. This is how many more covers OpenTable has seen year over year in Hawaii for restaurants that categorize themselves as either $2 signs, $3 signs, or $4 signs on OpenTable. And so you see the biggest growth year over year is in restaurants that categorize themselves as the most expensive on our platform. So diners are going to $4 sign restaurants even more than a year ago. So it's just another sign that dining hasn't gone away. And economic pressures aren't necessarily tamping down demand for nice meals and experiences.
Feast, Dish, and Dialogue is presented by the Hawaii Ag and Culinary Alliance, the nonprofit organization behind the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. Founded to strengthen Hawaii's culinary and agricultural industries, HACA connects world-class culinary events with year-round investment in education, workforce development, and local agriculture. Through programs that support students, entrepreneurs, farmers, and hospitality professionals, HACA works to ensure Hawaii's food and hospitality ecosystem continues to grow, innovate, and thrive.
All right, but let me give you a contrarian point of view. When we asked restaurateurs what are trends they expect to come in 2026, the number one answer was happy hours and value promotions. So in other words, restaurateurs, your peers believe that discounts will be a thing next year. And in order to drum up demand, part of the strategy will be to focus on value. So for the restaurateurs out there, I don't know how you guys are feeling about diner demand and whether what our data is saying mirrors what you're feeling in your restaurants today. But it's not clear-cut that inflation and economic uncertainty has softened diner demand. And in fact, we're seeing evidence that it's as healthy as ever. Okay, third disruption. I don't think this one should be surprising at all. You all know the drill by now. This is our talking Justin head. He's telling us about all the change that happened in 2018. His speech at the World Economic Forum was actually about automation and AI, but there's just no way that he could have known that 5 or 6 years ago after he spoke, we would see the rise of ChatGPT, explosive growth in the number of large-scale AI models, and even driverless cars just driving all over the place in San Francisco and all over California. So here's the thing, like it or not, AI is coming. It is a technological transformation that is going to rock the world. And dining is not immune. So like I said before, diners really aren't using ChatGPT right now to go and discover new restaurants. But 44% of diners said that they plan to find and book restaurants using AI more next year. And 72% of restaurants say they plan to adopt AI soon. And over 90% believe it's important to stay competitive. So if you're sitting on the audience and you haven't really thought about AI at all, and you need some ideas, the 3 biggest way restaurants say they're going to be using AI, number 1 is developing marketing content. Number 2, responding to diner reviews. And number 3 is using voice AI for reservations. So instead of having a human pick up the phone, you have AI pick up the phone. We're seeing the impact of AI at OpenTable too. So last month, we launched our refreshed private dining product to diners. So we now have one place where diners can find all the restaurants that have private rooms or can take large groups. These are some of the marketing assets that we created for the campaign. And the reason why I'm showing this to you is that this campaign was the first campaign we've ever done where 100% of the images were AI generated. Every photo here generated by AI. What this meant is that we didn't need to do any photo shoots, and we could just conjure up any kind of celebration instantaneously. This is also our first time doing it, and it wasn't perfect. For some reason, AI loves to create humans with six-fingered hands. I don't know why, but it took hours and hours to comb through every single image and try to remove that. So it was our first time. It wasn't perfect, but it gave us a lot of ideas about the power of AI and how we can use it in the future.
If today's conversation inspires you, we invite you to experience it in person at the Feast Summit, returning Thursday, November 5th, 2026 in Honolulu during the 16th Annual Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. Mark your calendars, tickets go on sale this May. Learn more at hawaiifoodandwinefestival.com.
And let me just say one more thing about private dining really quickly. So you'll meet Leah shortly. She's one of our panelists. But last week, during a prep call, she mentioned that private events is a revenue driver for her. And I mentioned that because very coincidentally, I just happened to be at an event last week where David Nafeld of K Fico in San Francisco said basically exactly the same thing, right? Private dining is a really great source of revenue, and it's easier to control costs for planned events. So restaurants, if you're not sure about your private dining strategy going forward, come talk to us, because it's worth figuring out how you can crack private dining as a sustainable revenue stream. All right, so those are three of the biggest disruptions I see happening in our world today. The rise of social media influencers, inflation and economics uncertainty, and the technological disruption of AI. I'm sure we can think of others too, but guys, Justin is right. The pace of change has never been this fast, but it's never going to be this slow again. But now what? So we know that change is the reality. How do we turn it into an opportunity for us? How can restaurants thrive in this age of change?
Mahalo for listening to Feast, Dish, and Dialogue. If you enjoyed this conversation, subscribe and share it with someone passionate about food, agriculture, and hospitality. To learn more about the Feast Summit and the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival, visit hawaiifoodandwinefestival.com. Be sure to join us for the next episode of Feast, Dish, and Dialogue.